Okay, so we're going to decorate these cookies with these gorgeous colours. As you can see here, I've made a rainbow of pastel colours, and I'm just going to share some tips and tricks with you. These are in disposable bags. They're not usually the same ones that I would use all the time. I ran out of them, so these are a little bit heavier and more what I would use for buttercream, but it's all I had today, so we're going to use them. And so I'm just going to show you here. I've started to do an outline and realised that it probably wasn't thick enough for me to cover the cookie, so I've cut it a bit larger, and then I'm just pushing all of the icing out and then just putting it around the cookie as much as I can. I like this consistency because I don't like it too thick and I don't like it too thin. But I like to be able to do it all in one go because I've got a lot of orders that come through. When you're first starting out, you can actually just do an outline and wait for that to dry, and then you can fill it in and then it wouldn't go over the sides. But with this method, I can play with it a little bit and use my little tool to go around the edge if I have any icing going off the side. So with the blue ones, yeah, I do an outline and then I just come on the inside and then fill that. So you're always pressing pretty hard with the bag, and the thing is that you need to have the icing up against each other. So if you find you have a few little holes there, you've just got to use your little tool, scribe there, and then I give it a shake. So I shake it from side to side to make it go smooth, and then I fill around the edges if it hasn't gone right to the edge, and just give it a shake. It's amazing what a little shake will do. It just brings it to a smoother state, and then I just wipe around the edge if it's gone over the edge. Okay, so the pink one, what I did with this one was make it a bit thicker just to show you the difference. So I was going to show you in real time, but it does take a long time, and I know that people get a bit bored when it takes too long. So as you can see, this is coming out a bit more swirly. Can you see that it's lined, so it's not actually running into each other? So if it's too thick, see all the gaps there? You have to try and go around with a scribe to make sure that they hit against each other. But then when you go to shake, it will still work, but it's just going to take you a whole lot more time to make it smooth, and it actually doesn't quite get as smooth as the first ones that I did, the blue ones. And you'll find that you'll have lots of air bubbles that you'll have to pop because of the shaking and the consistency of it being a lot thicker. So then you have to work on it a lot longer. So if you're doing a big lot of cookies, this is actually quite time consuming. So it is really important to have a good consistency with your icing. I'm going to show you the icing soon and how I make it. So you can follow that recipe, and the recipe will be in a PDF below, so you can download that if you'd like. I put a recipe for the cookie mixture that I use and a recipe for the icing. I have put in the amount of icing that I use, so maybe that might be a bit too much. You might need to halve the recipe if you're just going to do your own little batch at home. But I'm continually making cookies, so I need as much as I can, and I'll show you how much it makes when we do it. But as you can see here, I'm still going on this cookie and still trying to get all the little bumps to go down and pricking the little holes, but it's not going to be quite smooth. But I'm going to be putting rainbows over the top of that, so you can, whatever you're going to be putting on there, you need to be able to cover that up. So this one is yellow that I'm using. And again, I could cut the hole a bit thicker and go around a bit smoother, but I am going to use these later to write on the cookie with, so I just didn't want to have to cut a big hole and then use another bag to cut a smaller hole. So I'm just filling in Give you little swirlies. And then giving it a shake again like I did with the blue one. And then I can just use that little scribe to push it out to the side and get rid of any air bubbles that might be just there. And then I'll just go around the edges. As I said before, if you're going to put things on top of it, it doesn't matter if it doesn't look quite smooth. But I am a little bit of a perfectionist, so I do like them to be pretty smooth when I do it. So, and it is just a trial and error. Like I've been decorating for ages, and I still have days where I put it in the bag and then go, oh, that was way too thick. And then I have to, take it out and do it again, or sometimes I just keep going and then it takes me a lot longer, which I should have just taken it out of the bag in the first place and changed it. But don't think that, you're going to get it right from the start. You just need to practice, and even with us that have done it a few times, we still are not quite, sometimes it depends on the weather as well. I'm in a humid place, so sometimes with it just being in my hand in a bag, if I'm doing a lot of cookies, and it can get a lot runnier, so I need to make it a little bit thicker to start with so that it won't be too runny. And I have a sponge over to the side that I sometimes wipe the tip on, or the tool that I'm using, the scribe. So I'm just pushing it out to the edges because I want the whole of the cookie to be covered. And I use royal icing because everybody loves the taste of it. I've done a lot of fondant, and even though they look really pretty and you can do so many things, they just don't taste the same. So a lot of people like getting the cookies when they're fondant, but then they don't eat them. But I think everybody that has ordered them have said, oh my gosh, I'm going to order that again. So that's why I put the recipe below. My recipe does have a bit of self-raising flour in it, so it does spread sometimes a little bit, but I just think I like that people like the design, but they also love eating it. So I'm a bit of a person that likes to have both. Looks good, tastes good. Okay, so this one I'm going to show you what happens if you have your icing a little bit runny. So if it's too runny, when you're shaking over the sides, it's going to go all over your fingers and then down the side of the cookie. But it's okay, you can still work this to be smooth and round. So I just take the scribe and the edge of it, and I just go around the edge, and then I've got the sponge on the side that I wipe it on, and then keep going. I'm kind of not very good in the camera, am I? So then keep going around with the scribe until you get a smooth edge where it doesn't come off onto the scribe anymore. This was pretty runny in the end, even when I put it down onto the bench. I can still like it a little bit. So as you can see, if you do go over the edge, you can wipe it off on the side, but it can still leave some little marks. If you're using black, that's a horrible color to use, and you really don't want it to go over the sides, because once it does, it stains the cookie on the side as well. But this kept dripping off the side a bit, so it was really runny, the green. And as you can see, as I've sat it down flat, I'm trying to go around it again, and hopefully it'll form a seal on there pretty quickly as the air's drying it. Okay, so time to make the icing. I needed some more, so we're going to use meringue powder, and I use 8 tablespoons of that into my mixer. You can use a hand mixer as well. This is my stand mixer. And then 2/3 of a cup of water goes into there, and you put your whisk on, and then you just start beating that. And you just put it on highest level that you can do, and you just watch it until it foams up into white peaks. Takes a little while, probably takes about 5 minutes or so for it to peak up. Okay, so you can start to see the it like firming up in there, and it's making like the meringue look of the egg white mixture. So you want to do that for the 5 minutes, and then we'll turn it off, and you'll be able to see the consistency, the peaks. So you can be able to fold your spatula through, and it's like a meringue mixture. So we're going to pop that back onto the mixer, and we are going to add a bag of icing sugar. So we have, glucose syrup. We're going to put 2 tablespoons of glucose syrup in, and this here is corn syrup in America, but it's called glucose syrup here in Australia, and we want to add 2 of that. It's very, very sticky, but it actually helps the icing on the cookie firm and go hard after a while. Otherwise it'd be too runny and you wouldn't be able to put your cookies into bags and things like that. So this corn syrup is important. Very sticky, a bit like toffee, like golden syrupy, even stickier than that actually. And so we wanted 2 tablespoons of that in there, and then we're going to put in some vanilla extract, and use vanilla extract instead of essence. Vanilla extract is like the real stuff, and so you don't need to put a lot in. It'll last a lot longer and give you a nicer flavour. Okay, and then we just put the whisk on there again on level 1, and just so that it will mix those 2 things into the egg white mixture. So let it just mix for maybe a minute while you're washing the sticky stuff off your fingers. And then we'll stop that, lift it off, and this is where you're going to add a bag of icing sugar now. So I used soft icing sugar. I always use soft icing sugar instead of pure. Pure you need to sift, and I'm lazy, and so the soft icing sugar, I can just open the bag and pop that all in. That's a 1 kilogram bag that I've just used. So all of that into the mixture, and then we're going to put a paddle attachment on. So I'm going to use one with the scraper on the side, but you might just have a normal paddle, and that's fine. So just going to pop that back on, and we're going to turn it on just onto level 1, so on this lowest level, and we're going to let that mix and mix and mix for about 5 minutes. So as you can see, it looks all lumpy and yuck, and you wouldn't want to use it like that to ice your cookies. So for 5 minutes you'll see the difference. But yeah, go off and do something else, and then come back and let it be at least 5 minutes that it's mixing for. As you can see, as you watch this, it starts to get smoother. And you just leave it on the slowest one for the 5 minutes just to make a nice mix. Looks really good when it's all mixed in together. Okay, we are getting to the end of the 5 minutes and it looks pretty good, nice and creamy, mixed together. So we're just going to lift that up and take a look. And as you can see, it's quite thick. So that's the thick icing like this. And then as you work with your icing, you will adapt it by adding water, depending on how thick or thin you want it, if it's for writing or filling in the whole cookie like we did before. But we're going to wipe this bowl down, like scrape it around the sides and mix it in. And as you can see, it's a very thick consistency. Looks so good though too, doesn't it? I love the look of that. It is quite thick. So depending on what you're going to use it for, if you're going to actually make flowers and things like that, you would want a thicker consistency. But if you're going to use it to fill a cookie, then you would want it runnier. So you just have to adjust with either adding more icing sugar or putting water into the consistency that you like. I've just grabbed one of my big tubs. You need to make sure that you've always got your icing covered if you're not using it all in one day. But even like you wouldn't want to just sit it in this container and just leave the lid off, because it will start to get crispy and hard. And then you'd have, when you tried to mix it in, you'd have little bits of hard bits in there, and then those hard little chunks can get caught in your piping bag. So always make sure that you cover it, either put Glad wrap over the top or put a lid on top. And that's quite a big container there, and it's nearly filled, like it's quite full. So it'll do quite a few cookies for me. But if you're not going to use it for too many, then you would just halve the recipe. Okay, so I am putting this into a bowl. I needed to make some white icing to fill a couple of those round cookies. So as you can see, it's still quite thick. I'm putting it out of there into there. And usually I would turn the tap on and I just let it drip very slowly, and I just put the bowl underneath every now and then and mix it in, but I'm just going to do it from a cup. So I'm just adding a little bit of water at a time and just will feel the consistency as I add the water. You don't want to add too much at a time, because if it goes too runny, then you've got to add a whole lot of other icing sugar back in on top, and that just is a waste. So just a little bit at a time. So I'm going to fill this cookie, so I want it to be a little bit runny. So that's still too thick. As you can see, it doesn't fold back on itself when it's in the bowl. Getting a little runnier, but it's still thick. That would be good for writing on the cookies. And then I'm just going to add in some more. I could have still probably got a little bit runnier, but I think that every time that you pop them into the bag, my hands are quite warm and it can still get a little bit runnier being in my hand a bit. So I like it to be a little bit thicker so that I can play with it on my cookie. So now we'll just grab a disposable bag, and I'm just using the Loyal ones here, and I'm just going to flip it back on my hand and make a little cup so that I can put the mixture into it. You can put this on top of a cup and pull the sides down if you're first starting and it's a little hard to do this, but I just hold my hand open and then grab the mixture and plonk it inside. I'm going to use this icing for writing as well, so I didn't want to make it too runny because I'm trying to do two things at once. So I was trying to make it for a fill and writing. Because I only had a couple of cookies to do, so I didn't want to have to make two lots of icing. So you can actually tie those up at the end if you've got room, or I just pop a little elastic band around the end just to stop it from being pushed back up, and you can hold your hand on top of it to push the icing out. Sometimes if you leave it open and it's not turned around at the top, it can push out the other end, and that makes everything a little bit too messy. Okay, so here's all the pretty rainbow colours. Yay! We're going to do a few rainbows as well. So I've just got this one here where I'm adding some cloud effect at the end of the rainbow. So we didn't want the white to be smooth, you know, like fluffy clouds, so I've kept it a bit fluffy. And then we have two other shaped rainbows, so I needed to put a base as well. So we've done white as the colour underneath, and I'll show you later what we do to these. So I'm just filling in the base at the moment, and we'll then get on to that other coloured round circles, and I'll show you what we do with those. So we are going to, I've just put these, that tray that you see has come out of my dehydrator. So when the cookies have been iced, I pop them into there for about 15 minutes and they come out pretty solid, which is really good because when you're busy, I didn't have it for a long time. And if you're waiting a few hours or even half a day or so for them to set properly, it can just make everything go so long. So a lot of time wasted. So when I can just finish doing them and then pop them into the dehydrator and they're nearly set in 15 minutes, it's awesome. So I'm doing the rainbow here. So we're using white as the base and then we've done 3 colours for the rainbow. I'm just fixing up, touching up a little bit. And then the other one, we're going to do the same thing, and I don't think I filmed this very well. I forgot to put it in where you can actually see it. Sorry. So we might flick through this pretty quickly anyway. Okay, so now we're going to have some fun with some fondant. We've got a few colours that I did some blue, purple, peach, pink, white I think. Maybe a little bit of green I think too. So we've just made some little, rolled some long, and as you see, sometimes it doesn't work, and so I had to screw it up and start again. So learning to roll your fondant into long pieces, pop them beside each other and then twist them, because we're going to make that effect for the rainbow. And then I just chop it to the size that I want. So that's part of the rainbow, and we're going to do 3 different colours together. So the next colour was orange, so just twisting and twisting, and then you need a little bit of, I'm just cutting it a little bit to shape. Then you'll need to have a little paintbrush and a little bit of water. I've got my little slippies on still. Okay, so some water in between and then pushing that inside that one so that they'll stick together. And then I'm going to use purple as the outside one. And this is just all trial and error. You just keep playing with it. It's just like Play-Doh, rolling it. Twisting it. And I'll pop that one on the outside, but then I realised it wasn't big enough. So see, these things happen. So you just have to then play with it and roll it a bit longer till you work out the measurements of what works. I always say that cookie decorating and cake decorating is always just trying to figure out how to fix up your mistakes. So yes, don't ever think that we're watching a lot of things now on YouTube and that, and Instagram, and everything's sped up, so it looks like, wow, that looks so easy to do and that doesn't take her long. I know some of the cakes that you see look so smooth and like, wow, how'd they do that? But if they told you what they did in between the cuts, it takes hours to get it nice and smooth. So don't always think that you need to be perfect to be able to do this. It's just trial and error, practice and practice. And then you work out what works, and then if it makes a mistake, you work out how to cover that up. Okay, so then you need to put a little bit of royal icing on the back of those, little squiggle. then I'll turn it over and stick it to the actual cookie. So as you can see, it looks very cute. Little rainbow on the top. And then we're going to mix up the colours of the other cookies and we're going to make a whole lot more. Okay, so now we've put the rainbows on the cookies and I have been writing the word Cove and 1. So Cove's the little girl's name and number 1 is how old she will be. So I've just piped them on with white icing. And this is the rainbow. We're putting some little balloons on the side. So I've let some of the balloons set in between so that they don't all mush into one and they stand out. And I'll go pop them back into the dehydrator to set for a little bit. Now with the other ones we're going to use a edible pen as well, but first of all I'm just going to do some dots with some icing around the edge of the outside one on this one. So just piping some pink around the outside edge. And then we're going to grab the edible pen and just do some little strokes and some dots so we make this different effect on the rainbow. They look very cute. So I'm just doing little strokes and then I will do little dots on the inside. And then I'm going to do a little love heart with some icing on the inside of the yellow last rainbow edge colour. Okay, so the ones in the cove have set. And what I've done now is bring some sprinkles over that match the colouring, and I have just put some extra icing inside the O's and the E's and then dipping them into the sprinkles so that they are cute little colours inside on that one end cove. So filling it in so that the sprinkles have got something to stick to. And they all look very cute all together. The colour scheme looks really lovely. And then we'll have 4 rainbows that go with this set as well. So you'll see that in a minute.